Hey there, this is Joseph, and welcome back to the San Miguel de Allende Secrets channel. And today we're going to be talking about the possibility of wearing face masks long after the virus is over. As always, if you need more information, in the description down below are links to various websites, in addition to Amazon if you want to purchase any of the books in the San Miguel de Allende Secrets series of bestsellers. San Luis Potosi officials, a town about 2 hours north of San Miguel de Allende, released over the weekend the mandate that masks are required to be worn inside or outside of the home. Britain followed suit. Okay, Britain's probably thought of the idea on their own. Denmark boasts one of the lowest virus rates in the world as of August 4th, though the Danish government does not recommend wearing masks. Just like Finland and Holland don't encourage wearing masks, being the polar opposites of the governments of the more infected Spain and Italy that do. Pros and cons on mask arguments lace the media, which made me wonder, even long after the virus is gone, could veiling one's face remain in vogue? There's a long history to women wearing masks beyond her wedding or when meandering in the desert. Disguising a woman's face has always been advantageous in a patriarchal society, offering a certain anonymity. I can't speak today. Anonymity. Woo. Ladies may enjoy that, as more and more often we are watched online, on community webcams, with face recognition software and drone footage. Typically, someone who wears a mask is a criminal or an outlaw. Would you need to hide their face if not for some evil purpose? True, sometimes a mask is worn by good characters in fiction such as Batman, but there's always a dark side to the story. To understand more the meaning of wearing masks, there's an ancient story where a face mask provided a fundamental role in Jesus' ancestry, with his great, numerous times over, grandmother, Tamar. Tamar married Judah's eldest son, Because of his wickedness, the Bible states was killed by God. Luckily, death by wickedness days are behind us. Judah then required his second son, Onan, to marry her and provide offspring for Tamar so that the family line might continue. Inheritance laws then had substantial economic repercussions, requiring one to marry your brother's childless widow. Any son born between Tamar and Onan was deemed the heir of the deceased and able to claim the firstborn's double share of the inheritance. However, if was childless even after death, Onan would inherit as the oldest surviving son. Dowries are to blame for such inheritance nonsense. In a patriarchal society, a woman would gain access to a higher-ranking man by paying a dowry. But if the man died before she had children to him, the woman would have paid for nothing, because being a woman, she couldn't inherit the possessions of her deceased husband. Hence, children sired by the brother of the deceased husband/brother would be considered as sons and daughters of the first husband in regard to inheritance matters. So, once Onan wed Tamar, he found himself fond of not orgasming in the authorized orifice, opting to, instead, according to the Old Testament, spill his seed on the ground. Once again, God kills one of Judah's sons for his wickedness, while Tamar finds herself a childless widow for the second time. At this point, things become really complicated. The law says that Tamar should now marry Judah's remaining son, Shelah, but he's too young, and so Tamar finds herself betrothed to a child with the perspective that when grown up enough, he'd be forced to marry Tamar and behave like Onan for the same reasons. Plus, the young Shelah must not have been thrilled at the prospect of marrying a woman 10 years or more older than him. As the youngest of three brothers, the whole notion of makes me want to throw up a little in my mouth, all due apologies to my sisters-in-law. Then there's Judah, the brother's father, and his problems. Maybe he could send Tamar back to her family, but then he'd have to pay back the dowry he had received. Ugh. Also, suffice to say, Judah doesn't want to burden Shelah with the unlucky yet loved Tamar. Around this time, Judah's wife dies, and upon hearing the news, Tamar disguised herself as a prostitute he'd stumbled upon when going to shear his sheep. Judah saw the woman, but did not recognize her as Tamar because of the veil she wore masking her face. Thinking she was a prostitute, he requested her services, enabling Tamar to become pregnant by this ruse, bearing not one baby, but twins in Judah's line. I'm baffled we are asked to believe that Judah has sex with his daughter-in-law, who he's been living in his family for at least a few years now, and he doesn't recognize her because she's masked by a veil. It reminds me of how Lois Lane is so dumb she can't recognize that her fiancé, Clark Kent, and Superman are the same person, just because Kent wears glasses. Maybe like Lois, Judah wasn't the brightest bulb, but the story that the Bible tells us is supposedly to be a true story, and Judah cannot have been that clueless. Tamar, having secured her place in the family, as well as Judah's prosperity, gave birth to twins, Perez and Zerah. Perez is identified in the book of Ruth as the ancestor of King David, all thanks to Tamar's masking veil. The mask/veil literally saved Tamar's life and ensured that her children would become the founders of the Davidic line of Judah's tribe, forever making Judah's family tree look more like a telephone pole. As always, feel free to push the buttons below to like and subscribe, and you'll get automatic notifications of new videos that come out on the San Miguel de Allende Secrets channel.